Hello, and how's it going? I am Sea King, and today we're going to be doing a special episode, basically a bonus episode, where we're going to break down a particular character from, I guess, whatever season we're going to be doing. I plan on doing this. Just one moment. Let me know if you guys can see the stream at all. If you know, because I see that we have some people here, just to make sure it's working. Because it seems like it's working on my end. Okay. All right. So basically, we're going to be doing at the end of every season as a bonus episode. I'm going to probably break down a character. It was a suggestion from a viewer where I do like a breakdown of a character at the end of each one of these seasons. And this particular season, obviously, I'm going to break down the superhero. And if you've been paying attention at all to the last maybe two or three episodes, then this particular superhero that I'm going to be breaking down won't be too big of a surprise to you. For the character that I decided to break down today is none other than Beast Boy. I chose Beast Boy for obvious reasons because most of my compatriots who I have on the stream sat there and was like, "Oh man, Beast Boy ain't crap. Beast Boy, uh, doesn't belong on certain levels of the tier list." And initially, I was gonna do an episode on Spider Man. However, I changed my mind, and I'm gonna do it on Beast Boy now because you know you can't be talking crap about my dog. No pun intended. That being the case, we're gonna start talking about Beast Boy, and let's break this guy down a little bit, right? On a fundamental level. First things first, you need to understand where Beast Boy obviously originally came from. Beast Boy's comics was introduced in 1965, where he was introduced in the Doom Patrol comics. He was later on in issue 100 of Doom Patrol. He became an official member, but this is basically where he was introduced. And might I add, if I'm not mistaken, when he initially infiltrated the Doom Patrol, he actually gave a certain level of hands to some of these people, just on sight because he was young and he was scared at the time. Now, that's where he was traditionally introduced, but I'm going to get into his actual backstory. Let's see these slides. Initially, Beast Boy was just a young kid. His father was a scientist, as most of these superhero stories tend to start, where you have a scientist father, accidents, all that kind of crap. However, an accident didn't necessarily occur with Beast Boy when it came to his dad. It was actually caught a fever while his father was working on genetic experiments in West Africa. He caught a disease called Secutia or something like that. Yeah, Secutia, which was a fever related to malaria, and there was no known cure for the disease. The disease in of itself, however, did have animals that could be cured from it just from their natural constitution, I should say. But the only animal that could cure itself of the disease was the West African green monkey. So his father, being a geneticist, basically concocted some kind of serum that basically turned him into animals. So upon him turning into the West African green monkey, he was able to cure himself of the disease, therefore curing his illness. However, as a side effect, he was permanently green, and as you probably guessed, he was able to change into the forms of animals. Now, I have a theory about that, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So that was basically how he got his powers. Now his backstory gets a little bit more tragic after that because after curing his illness and being able to turn into animals, there was an accident. There was floods that was happening in West Africa that basically flooded the entire encampment that they were at, and basically his parents told him to just turn into a bird and fly off because if he didn't, they would all die, but they wanted him to live. So he basically had to watch his parents die going over a waterfall. Yep, so it was a little bit tragic, but after this, the tragedy unfortunately doesn't end because after this, then he was being taken care of by his uncle. His uncle was kind of those, I don't like Disney uncles, where I want your parents' fortune, and I'm going to try to kill you before you come of age to get them, so I can get the money. So that's kind of the mindset between that, and so he ended up foiling those plans to some extent, and then afterwards, he was able to he left that situation in which he ran into the Doom Patrol, and after causing the Doom Patrol some issues, eventually they adopted him in a way. I think they said that the dad, if I'm not mistaken, was a little bit more harsh than his own father. But at the end of the day, Elastigirl, oddly enough, is her actual name, was very, very caring as a mother figure and, took care of him a great deal. Until eventually he left that team and joined the Teen Titans. Which I thought it was a little bit funny because the Doom Patrol, uh, look through my notes. The Doom Patrol's member, her name was like, it sounded awfully close to Elastigirl from The Incredibles, which I thought was just funny because I think the last name of the female, or Elastigirl from Doom Patrol's name was like something Far, but Elastigirl in Incredibles' name was Helen Parr, and so their names kind of rhymed. I thought it was funny, and I wondered if it was kind of based off of that to some extent. But that being said, yeah, sorry, it was Rita Farr. Yeah, so you had Rita Farr and then Helen Parr, and they're both of their names were Elastigirl, which I thought coincidence. I think not. So yeah, the Doom Patrol was actually a really really great comic series. It's still going on somewhat today with their TV shows and things of that nature. Um, and someone, not going to name any names, was talking about what did the Doom Patrol do and all that kind of feats, and they actually did a great deal of things. They fought lots of like high level threats. In fact, the whole purpose of their comic was to kind of take care of threats that like a lot other superheroes necessarily couldn't take care of. Um, in fact, I think I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, now I remember. It was the X Men. Now this is a rumor, but if you look at kind of the situation surrounding the creation of the Doom Patrol and then the creation of the X Men, it's been theorized that the X Men is actually heavily based off of the Doom Patrol. The reason why people say that is because if you look at the formation of the Doom Patrol and then the formation of X Men, the fact that there's like a ragtag group of misfits who follow a guy in a chair, they both have that. And then on top of that, after Doom Patrol was released, several months after that is when X Men was released for the first time in 1965. And so it's not overtly like ever revealed by anybody, but there's a case there that basically the Doom Patrol was, or X Men was kind of a copy of the Doom Patrol, which I just thought was a little bit interesting. That being said, let's get into Beast Boy's powers. because Beast Boy's power is going to be probably a little bit greater than you anticipated, right? A lot of people obviously know that Beast Boy has the ability to turn into animals. However, it's to the extent in which he can turn into animals and not just regular animals, right? Beast Boy's powers in the new 52 was basically revealed to some extent that he was basically connected heavily to the red, which is why in the new 52 comics they changed his color to red. But because of, fan demand, basically, it wasn't even fan suggestion, it was fan demand that they turn his color back to green because people were used to the green. And I know Green Queen was going to be all, well, green's a better color, but, I liked him when he was red. I think he looks a lot cooler red than he does necessarily green, but I'm not gonna die on that hill of a color change, right? So, but the red is basically similar to what the green is in the DC, where the green is basically like a force that connects all plants, like Swamp Thing is an agent of the green. Beast Boy and Animal Man are both agents of the red, which encompasses all animals and not necessarily just animals on Earth. It encapsulates all animals in the universe. So that's kind of, and my theory was that when his father injected him with the whatever kind of serum he did to change his form into the monkey or whatever, it basically added some kind of connection to him to the red, like a great connection to the red, which allowed him to basically transform to all other animals, not necessarily just the monkey. So he's basically an agent of the red, and from what I understand from the comics and his connection to the red, it said that unlike Animal Man, who often acts as an avatar for the red, Beast Boy's powers in that period was described as a deeper, innate, and true connection to the red, which is why I believe he's far more powerful than Animal Man is when it comes to just transformations and things of that nature. And so I think that's one of the bigger reasons why you see, or you will see anyways, that Beast Boy's transformations and just straight up power is far greater than any other agent of the red. And this person's name is Apex Ava, who also has a connection to the red. And she actually also has she basically got her powers the exact same way that Beast Boy did, right? Where she also had Sakushia, and same thing, was given some form of serum in order to heal her own sickness. However, her connection to the red, for some reason, I don't think is as powerful. And the way she gets her forms are also vastly different. She has to kill predators in order to be able to change into them. That's her ability. And so, if she wants to turn into a lion, she would have to go kill a lion, and then she would be able to turn into the lion. However, just like she kind of states in this comic, Beast Boy is everything. His connection to the red is far greater than almost anybody else's connection to the red. And so she believes that once she kills him as a predator, she'll also be able to be everything. The reason why I bring this up is because I wanted to really drive home his connection to the red and his just level of ability. Beast Boy's ability to turn into animals does not just go to regular animals, but also goes to the mythological animals, not just like alien animals and regular animals. He's been seen turning into a phoenix on several occasions. He's been seen turning into something called the Hanuman, which is a Hindu monkey deity that he uses to combat magical threats. So he can even he can even turn into animals of divinity in order to utilize that when it comes to fighting certain enemies. He's been seen obviously as a unicorn, as you see with this lovely little lady, and he's been known to turn not into just Eastern dragons, but Western dragons as well, which I think is a pretty big deal. Obviously, dragons are dragons, right? And so this level of ability that he displays is just absolutely phenomenal. He can turn into almost anything. He's even been turned into. Now, this is a picture of a particular type of dragon that was owned by Kitty Pryde, and I'm trying. It was called Lockheed. That's what it was. I was trying to think of the name. Yeah, the dragon's name was Lockheed, and he was able to even turn into that form of dragon. And there's been times where he's even turned into straight up Godzilla and utilized Godzilla's abilities. So it's not just, oh, I can just turn into the form of these creatures. He gets the abilities, the powers, and everything included when he turns into any of these creatures. So when he turns into his dragon form, he can actually breathe fire, he can fly, he can do everything that the dragon that he turns into can. And the same thing with Godzilla. He was able to use his atomic breath and other things that Godzilla was able to do. And then there's probably his most powerful form, which you'd think it would be the dragon, or you think it would be the I don't know, Godzilla form. But I would say this is probably his most physically powerful form, which is actually his werewolf form. Because his werewolf form in the comics was actually said to be physically strong as Superman. Now, there's not like a side by side comparison. I'm just telling you what I read, right? So take that with a grain of salt. Don't take it as fact. But this is his physically most strong form. And in fact, in this form, this is the form that he took when he was in the animated series, he gave straight hands to every single member of the Teen Titans, like handily. Like it wasn't even hard. They didn't injure him. Like it was such a brutal ass whooping that it was almost embarrassing for the team. They would have had to disband if it was me. I would have never let him live it down. But yeah, they and granted, I know that some people are going to say, well, maybe they weren't trying to kill him. So, but here's the thing: Beast Boy wasn't trying to kill them either. You know what I mean? Even in these forms, he in some of these more radical forms, he does tend to lose control, which is why he tends not to turn into them. However, he's still strong enough when they're all holding back because he still has a semblance of you know, like some kind of raw emotional or like subconscious thought not to kill certain team members. Like for example, in this picture, he cares about Raven a great deal, and so he didn't. He was getting Raven, but he wasn't going to kill Raven. And so they're all holding back. But even then, he was giving them all hands together, right? Even if each one of them was given 50%, that's 50% times four, and so he was beating all of them up. So this is his more physically powerful form is the actual werewolf form. And then, like I said before, he can also turn into aliens. So in his alien, so anything that he's and it actually, believe it or not, doesn't just encapsulate what he's seen before. A lot of people believe that, oh well, if he's seen a creature before, then he can turn into these forms, but not necessarily. I will say his most powerful alien form, which is when he turned into Starro. Now I brought this up in the tier list debate that we kind of had, and I was trying not to give too much of the sauce away because it was like 2 days ago that I decided I was going to do it on Beast Boy instead. And so when we brought it back up, I was trying to allude to the fact that he was super powerful because he turned into Starro, without kind of without making basically this episode that I'm doing right now pointless, right? So yeah, him turning into Starro was probably his greatest and strongest form because in Starro's form, he could basically take over the world, right? It actually makes him intensely dangerous because the spores that he creates in Starro's form, all those mini Starros, he can basically do exactly what Starro can do. He can take over other people and then basically just rule the world with a bunch of people controlled by him. He can control each and every single one of these little clones that he does with the same level of intelligence that he has, and it's just crazy. And with that, he was able to help defeat the Necrostar. And it did cause some issues again because of the spores were all over the place. There were some issues, but there are he utilized it to kind of help people not be taken over by the Necrostar in the same way that Starro could. Sorry. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He's like I said, he's intensely powerful, and this is another thing why I was saying he doesn't have to see before what he can turn into. He can turn into whatever he imagines. So this, and he's turned into several different versions of straight up chimera. He can turn any part of his body an animal as well. It doesn't have to be, oh well, I have to be a whole animal. He can make his arm an octopus, his leg a shark fin. I don't know, but he doesn't have to necessarily be one full animal. So in this particular case, he transformed into an incredibly dangerous type of chimera where he was incredibly fast, he was incredibly strong, and he was just destroying everything and anything that was in his way from, do it. He wasn't, I don't think he completely lost control in this form, but like I said, when he does forms like this, it kind of makes it hard for him to control more outlandish forms like this one. Another big transformation he did was this like giant lion creature in which he was going toe to toe with Lobo. And we already talked about how Lobo was equal almost as strong as Superman physically, even though he can't necessarily be killed because of his insane regeneration. But he was up there fighting with Lobo in this type of form where he turned into this giant lion creature. And then there's been times where he's basically turned into giant abominations that dwarf dragons, and I couldn't find the entirety of this comic, but just looking at it, this thing looks horrid, right? Like if you just look at his design, his fingernails are into like I don't know, man. This is crazy as hell looking to me. I had to put it in here. I just had to let everybody else see it, but yeah. So he does not have to be like, oh yeah, I've seen this creature before in my nightmares. Like no, he he can turn into whatever he freaking wants to. And this is another instance where he can turn his body parts into whatever. He's turned into a centaur, which it was kind of a passing thing where he just running on a treadmill in the back as a centaur. But I thought it was interesting, so I decided I'll just add it. But this is kind of to drive home the point that he can turn parts of his body into animals as well. So he doesn't have to be the whole animal. Now, let's get to his feats, right? Besides the fact that he was a part of the Doom Patrol for quite some time, another thing that he did, which they were like, oh, he, each one of these people were important and did something for the team, or whatever. But Beast Boy actually was the leader of the Teen Titans for a time during the 52 during the New 52 Infinite Crisis series, where this was after the death of Superboy, Connor Kent, and Robin, Wonder Girl, Cyborg, and Starfire had left the team to go pursue other things or whatever. I'm not 100% sure. But Beast Boy actually stepped up to lead the team. And so he was actually able to go and get new team members. So it was basically him and Raven, because I don't think Raven stayed. And so him Raven staying with him, he led the team, and he got a bunch of other people, including Zatara and Aqua Girl, and Offspring, and things of that nature. But He did run into some issues though. He because initially, um, a lot of the team members wanted fame. They didn't necessarily care about being a superhero as much as they cared about being famous, right? So a lot of them ended up kind of leaving the team because they thought they were too big. You know, they're getting a little too big for their britches, and they're like, "Oh, I don't need the team, and I don't need somebody pestering me to save people. I just want to be famous." You know what I mean? But you know, even after they left, he was able to gather more people. Like I said, he had Zatara and Aqua Girl, Offspring, and other people who kind of joined the team again after some of the other people kind of left and left them high and dry. But uh, yeah, but he did lead the team, and he led it actually incredibly well. He later on there was new members and other new superheroes that he helped lead, and he mentored a decent amount of them and helped them become great superheroes. And I would like to believe that it was also the help of Robin, because one thing that I learned while I was doing the research for this is that I learned that Robin actually taught Beast Boy hand to hand combat. Now, I remember Fumbles saying the other day that they kind of add, oh, they're an expert at martial arts, and they kind of just add that to everybody's repertoire, which they do. I'm not going to doubt what he said because they do kind of just add it to anybody and everybody. But he actually took the time out to teach Beast Boy hand to hand combat. And the reason being is because he said that there are instances in which his powers may not work. Somebody could have some kind of device or something that prevents you from using your ability to change form. So he actually took the time out and taught Beast Boy hand to hand combat. Now, even if he only taught him like 50%, or he was able to only master up to 50% of what Robin knows, the way these dudes were glazing this dude the other day, I think that 50% of Robin is still a formidable force on top of your already freakishly strong ability. Now, can you imagine having Robin's ability to fight and turning into that werewolf? It would be devastating. So that's one thing that so when he led the Titans for all that time period, he he taught and mentored a bunch of superheroes in that comic series until eventually um, everybody else came back, right? Like Cyborg and Rob and everybody else came back to the Titans eventually. But he led it for a decent amount of time. But while he was leader, he also, you know, he was fighting big villains like Lex Luthor. He participated in the World War III storyline as the leader of the Titans, and so he wasn't just, oh yeah, well I'm going to be a temporary leader for a couple weeks. Like no, he had to get the job done. You know what I mean? And there were also other instances in which he took leadership of the Titans um, in the animated series and other things like that. Again, they were temporary, but it showed that he had a certain level of leadership quality, which I think is just very, very important. Some of the other things he did besides the whole. Now, I'm going to add this to his level of feats, which was the whole thing we talked about when it came to when he turned into the Starro form, right? Because the Necro Star is like, unless you're like Superman or like almost damn near like demigod status like Wonder Woman, a Necro Star is freakishly hard to stop, and him turning into Starro was a big feat in of itself. It's a newer comic, and you can go and read it to get the kind of whole story if you want to. But my overarching point is I'm going to add that obviously to his list of feats. Him turning into Starro, which was a wild thing to do, and the first time he ever done something of that scale, right? That's the first time he turned into anything that big. He's turned into, obviously, like I said, Godzillas, things as tall as buildings, but he's never turned into something that could float above space and be damn near a moon. And so that was a pretty important thing. It was the comic is I think the Beast World comics, which is also where Apex Ava I believe is from. She's also from the Beast World comics. There have been times, especially when he was the leader of the Titans. Actually, it was in the same comic book in which he turned to his werewolf forms. He actually fought and defeated Deathstroke, which I think we were talking about Deathstroke the other day as well. And Deathstroke actually like maimed him pretty bad. But once he, but the thing about Beast Boy is that he's very tortured. You know, a lot of his ability and things of that nature kind of come from his emotions because he has a very troubled past, and people get kind of angry at him sometimes in the team because they look at his jovial and jokey nature and they think, why are you not being serious all the time? And it's because he's kind of offsetting a lot of his torturous past with comedy. And so once he actually reconciled a little bit of the whole torturous past thing, he was able to harness higher levels of strength, which is why when he turned into the werewolf form officially in the comics and not just in the animated series, he was intensely strong. And then he went on to actually go and defeat and overpower Deathstroke, which I think is a pretty feat too. I think we put Deathstroke in the same tier, and so I thought that was kind of important to add. Um, Besides that, I could not for the life of me find every source that I found in regards to Beast Boy seemed to kind of want to talk about his powers. Like everybody was just fascinated and like, oh my god, I gotta learn more about this guy's powers. And so it was just a lot about his powers. I had to sift through a lot of people theorizing and talking about his powers, and without me actually sitting down and reading, like this, he was introduced in like 1965. So unless I wanted to go through 70, 80, 90, 50 years worth of comic books to figure out any other kind of small feats or big feats he's done, which I'm not going to do, or at least I'm not going to try to squeeze it in a week. But those were pretty much the bigger feats that I found that he did. And that is pretty much the breakdown. I don't really have anything else. So, if anybody has any questions or things to add, I'm all ears. But for the most part, that's pretty much the long and short. That being the case, I know that some people were making like comments the other day on the tier list of, "Oh, why did you move Beast Boy up?" And it's like, well, because I knew I was going to come out with this episode, right? He was still going to. I was fighting pretty hard for him for that reason because it's like I know that a lot of people aren't going out of their way, or at least the people I know, anyways, aren't going out of the way to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go and read Beast Boy comics," and it's like, well, Beast Boy, when it comes to his sheer feats, are on top in regards to or not on top but on par when it came to every other people that we had equal to or above that rank of pretty solid, right? As far as popularity goes, I think he's like the second or third most popular person on the Teen Titans. I don't have to tell everybody how popular the Teen Titans is. So he's like the third. Like I think the most popular is Raven, believe it or not, when polled. The most popular was Raven. I think either second or third was Beast Boy. I'm not 100% sure where he ranked with him and Robin because Robin's obviously very popular, but it also depends on which Robin, right? Because if we're talking about like Dick Grayson or one of the other ones, like Damian Wayne or anything like that, then the popularity can shift. But as far as just consistent characters, he's definitely one of the more popular. He's freakishly strong. I would put him easily as the second strongest Teen Titan member, period. Like, no debate. Like, he can actually damn near kill anybody on the Teen Titans except for probably Raven because Raven's power is otherworldly, right? Her father's Trigon. If you know anything about Trigon, you understand why Raven is as powerful as she is. So it's like Trigon is basically a demon god, and she's the offspring of that demon god. So she's like, as far as the sheer ability, is equal to or greater than damn near Wonder Woman. Like if she actually tried and like, oh, I'm just going to give in to my evil. Like there's nobody who could really stop her. Now I think that Beast Boy could probably catch her lacking. right? Like if we're going based off of assassinations, I think Beast Boy could kill the entire team, especially because his abilities also extend not just to the large but the small. He can turn into single-celled organisms, and he has done this where that the Ant-Man joke that people do, where it's like, oh yeah, what if Ant-Man just climbed inside of Thanos and then bam, and then turned exploded? He's like, Beast Boy's actually done that, and then he did it to Trigon, right? So it didn't kill Trigon because Trigon is Trigon, but he actually did that where he like flew up as something real small and flew into Trigon's nose and then turned giant and freaking like hurt the hell out of him. And so if we're talking about just sheer assassinations, then there's nobody who's gonna probably beat him. Now, granted, Raven I think can also do the same thing where it's like, oh yeah, well I can be on a different planet, and then Azarath, Mizraim, Sithos, and then bam, you explode in your own bathroom. You end up looking like Elvis with your heart attack. And so again, I'm not trying to make the argument that he's stronger than Raven, but I know he's stronger than freaking Cyborg. I know he's stronger than Starfire, and for a fact, I know he's stronger than freaking Robin as far as just sheer ability, right? Like if we're talking about, oh yeah, in human form in a physical confrontation, Robin's going to win. But you know, if Beast Boy turned into a dragon, I don't think Robin's really going to do anything. And don't get me wrong, Robin's a menace, but I'm being practical here, right? Like, what is Robin going to do against Dragon without prep time? Even if I gave him the benefit of like Batman level aesthetic, where it's like, oh yeah, just always be prepared. But it's like, be prepared for what? Right? Well, what are you going to do against Dragon? There's no dragon weakness. There's no dragon kryptonite. So it doesn't matter. You're just gonna die in a straight confrontation. Like if Beast Boy and Robin were like, "Oh, what? Step to me," and like pushed him. If they fought, Robin dies. Yeah, I was joking. Yeah, because I think she can technically do that. So, yep. Okay, I think I'm done my rants. It's roughly about that time. I knew it wasn't going to be a long stream or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to do this character breakdown. You know, I'll probably do one of these as a bonus episode at the end of each one of the seasons. Right. The next time it'll be anime character, since the next season is going to be anime based. If you guys have a suggestion of an anime character you want me to do a breakdown on, just let me know. You can always message me on any of the social medias or something like that, and make a suggestion on who you want me to do a character breakdown on. Thank you, Fro Girl. I appreciate that. So yeah, if you guys want me to do any more breakdowns on particular characters that you think aren't getting enough love, then let me know, and I will do my due diligence and research, and I'll do a breakdown of them too. But again, it's going to be at the end of the season. Shinichi Uzumi. Let me. I'm terrible with names. I have to actually think about who that is, because all I can think of is Shinichi. It sounds like the guy who had like 5 masters and trained in martial arts, but I have to actually think about it. Who is Shinichi? Shinichi Izumi. Oh, my dog from Parasite. Okay, he is pretty. It is pretty dope. I'll think about it again. If is he misunderstood? I thought he was pretty dope, but yeah, depending on the types of suggestions I get, then I'll probably do a breakdown on one of the characters. Since Gusto's my dog, and he made the first suggestion, I'll probably think about doing him. But if I get some other suggestions and stuff like that, then I'll also consider those as well. So yeah, just think about it, and like I said, we have a whole season of anime to go through. So you might think of different characters, but just let me know. Make sure you guys follow me on all the social medias. Subscribe to the YouTube if you guys want to see the full vods. Well, misunderstood, underestimated. People don't really like understand their power or ability, something like that. Whatever justification you can strong female. There's no misunderstood strong female character that I can think of. They all are pretty dope and like if they are actually strong, right? Like like you ever seen Claymore? I think Claymore has like some of the like best women in anime. That's not, and they're not like, oh yeah, I'm like, I'm just a girl. Like, no, they're pretty dope, right? And then there's a lot of them I can name, but I'm not gonna go into that in this particular stream. Who's immune to poison? Froger, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Wait a while before logging off because I notice it takes a while for our comments to populate on your side. Okay. I'll wait a little bit, but that's what the whole point of me doing the wrap up. But yeah. So I've already kind of done a lot of the wrap up. I'm not gonna say it again. Actually, I think I will. Follow me on all the social medias because I know you haven't. So it'd be a great. It would mean a great deal to me if you guys followed me there. Subscribe to the YouTube and share videos with your friends. Let me say it one more time. Share the videos with your friends, your family. Heck, I wouldn't care if you just turn on YouTube and leave the house. Just have it running in the background. Make people think you're home. That's what we used to do when I was young. Just have something on in the background so that people didn't think you. So people thought you were home, so that you don't get robbed. But just play it in the background. Have it on your phone, whatever. Just play it. I do not care personally. Watch the. I don't have ads on my videos. I don't think because they're not monetized, so you don't have to worry about ads. But yeah, so that being the case, share the videos with your friends, and I will talk to you guys later. I'm supposed to when I'm doing the wrap up, I'm supposed to always click that it's ending like this because I barely get to use this screen a lot, and yet for some reason I keep forgetting. Oh well, I'll try to implement it a little bit better next time. But thank you guys for watching the breakdown. Like I said before, it'll take a little bit before it gets on YouTube. It takes a long time to get some of these little more lengthy VODs on there. I'm gonna upload the last part of um, the tier list video first, then I'll upload the breakdown. So, again, thanks everybody for watching. I am Sea King, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye bye.